We have Snehil Khanor. He is the chief matchmaker of Truly Madly. He's been the CEO for the last 5 years and was actually on the team originally from 2013 to 2016. Just to give you a little bit of an overview of Truly Madly, it was launched in 2014 and has attracted over 11 million users. And I read that you're hoping to reach $100 million total revenue in 2026. You convert 3.5% of users to paid memberships. Meanwhile, revenues in 2022 for the entire Indian market was estimated at about 387 million US dollars. Meanwhile, Statista estimates the revenues in 2024, predicts the revenues in 2024 to be on the order of $783 million. I always find it interesting when they're like, it's going to be $783 million, not 800 million. It's very, very specific for their model. So on that point, perhaps, could you comment on some of these numbers, Snehil? Of course, the internal numbers, anything you care to share. I think the number of 11 million users is probably a little bit behind the times, but perhaps you could update us.
Actually, now it is touching 13 million users now. And see, I would say that there is uh, no organization has so far done a very thorough research on the dating market of India. So even
Mhm.
Statista numbers, because I have been tracking it for around 4 or 5 years, they keep on fluctuating, right? At one point of time, they were projecting very low, then they were projecting very high. Now they are somewhere in the middle. So not enough effort has yet been put in the actual projection of the revenue, but there are a few things which actually tells us that it's a pretty big market, and it's a fairly new market, right? Dating is very new for India. When in 2014, when we were actually and I was a first product manager and founding member originally, I remember we had a heated discussions internally that should we call ourselves a dating app? Will India accept it, right? Or should we just call ourselves a new age matchmaking app? Dating was unheard of in India, and it was a very big taboo. Even today, I would say it's not gone completely, but it's much better. But back in 20, and actually we launched in 2014, we were doing all of this discussion in 2013, right? So we were really crazy to call ourselves dating then. But when you look at the market, so in India, we are expected to have some 400 million weddings in next 15 years, right? 400 million weddings
I
in the
can't even
next
get my head
15
around that.
years,
It's phenomenal.
right? So that's a TAM of 800 million users in the next 15 years who
Yeah.
are going to move, right? And just 10% of it, if it happens, which is a very low number, but and given that digitally India is going to be very strong in the coming 10-15 years, if we just take 10% of that 800 million, it is still you know uh, 80 million, and it's a huge number. So I think it's fairly new market for India. We always believe that we are in the category creation space, that the category does not exist right now, and we are the ones, or the people who, some more folks who are uh, attempting to make it. We are the ones who are going to create this category. It does not exist as of now very in a very mature way.
So how would you say, what kind of growth metrics do you think the industry is going to see in India over the next year? Could you put a percentage number on it in terms of growth in revenues?
I think i think
From what
20
you're
to
saying?
25% CAGR should be a no brainer,
Wow.
right? Because we are seeing a lot of uh, investments coming from Tinder and Bumble, which ultimately will help create the market, right? But one disadvantage that they have is that their product is not made for India, and India is a very different country, right? They made this product for Western market, and they are just marketing it here in India. But I believe that, then this being a product only, digital native product, right? So will require a lot of localization, some customization based on user behaviors, right? And it's a pretty different user than what those apps are actually built for. We have that kind of user also, but that is like just top 1-2% of the 800 million that I'm talking about, right? So what about the others? So nobody is building for them. That's what
Yeah.
we are trying to do. In fact, now we are seeing more than 45% of our revenue, not users, our revenue coming from tier 2 and tier 3 cities of India, which are non-metropolitan cities of
Ah,
India.
and more conservative, I assume.
Very much.
I see, I see. So is that the boat that perhaps Tinder and Bumble are missing at this stage, that they're going for the major metros, being a little bit more on the casual side, whereas you're more, not necessarily using the word dating, you're using other words within the app.
No, so we are using dating. We just add a prefix serious dating before it.
Ah,
So our thesis is that, so there are, see, currently there exist two kind of products. One is dating, which is largely dominated by casual dating, which Tinder, Bumble. Then they target mostly 18 to 23, 24. Tinder's go to market has always been colleges and universities, right? Then there is matrimony websites like Bharat Matrimony, Shadi.com. Their original TG is parents, right? So parents are the one who pay and either create your profile or push you to create your profile. We are trying to carve out our market in between, right? Because
mhm.
our thesis is that this guy who was using Tinder till say 23, 24 years of his age, when he graduate from a casual use case, he won't be going to shadi.com or a bharatmatrimony.com, because their whole product philosophy is around, I don't know if you know this caste system, caste
Mm.
and gotra and family wealth, right? It's more family than one on one, right? So Indians are ditching that. That is very much the arranged marriage setup, if you know about India. So it now, so earlier how dating used to be a taboo, now arranged marriages are becoming a bit of a taboo, where people, they, even if they are getting married via arranged marriage, they lie to their friends, no, no, met via friends of friends, because they feel ashamed that their parents had to find a match for them, right? So and that is a very interesting change that is, and I don't know if you are aware of this show called The Big Bang Theory,
Yeah.
right? So in the last season, so there is this Indian guy Raj, right? And his father, he calls his father in the last season, says, I'm ready now, please you get me married via arranged marriage. To which his father replies, what do you think, I can just call somebody's dad and make them marry you? It's not 2015 anymore. Right? So
That's
that is
great.
how well even it is documented in international pop culture, that the drastic change, the
Right.
socio-cultural change that is happening in India.
Yeah. I actually did a documentary, a vlogumentary, if you like, about Indian dating. It was several years ago now, but if you look on YouTube under Brooks Matrimony,
I
you
have
should go.
seen, yeah,
And you've seen it. I actually, Truly Madly was the lost interview. I interviewed your CEO founder back then, and then
yeah,
my disc erupted, and I didn't manage to get Truly Madly in it. But we have Woo and Matrimony and an interview with Shadi and end users in there. And I remember interviewing Gaurav, the current CEO of Shadi back then, and also Anupam Mittal, and the
yeah,
founder. And what
yeah,
he was basically saying that things have changed away from the arranged marriages and now more towards love marriages. So the distinction between love marriages that the people meet, the couples meet before they're married, right? And they spend a little bit of
yeah.
time. It might include a chaperone, it might include the family, but there is time spent together, and it's not arranged, it's love. There's got to be some signs of love initially. So it seems like the
Exactly.
trajectory is changing. I've heard from Matrimony that it used to be the majority of profiles were created by parents, but now that is less than a majority. It's under that 50% mark, more like 40%, I think, from last time. So there is a trajectory going on that seems to be playing well for Truly Madly and in your kind
Yeah,
of situation. Not dating, not Tinder, not casual, but you are, well, new age matchmaking. That's a very interesting term.
yeah, yeah. So
New
new
age
age
matchmaking.
matchmaking. Yeah,
Hmm.
because earlier
Yep.
matchmaking was mostly associated with just matrimony, and how dating was a taboo back then. We could foresee that matrimony will, in next 10, 15, 20 years, will become that taboo. Arranged marriages will become that taboo, right? uh, so that's how we decided on, taking a bet. In fact, we had to take some special permissions from Facebook to run ad, as a dating app. And but yeah, we are glad we made that call and stick to it, and that's why we are here today.
Now, when you say special permissions from Facebook, was that to not to be a dating app or to not be an arranged marriage service or a
No,
love
to
marriage?
run dating. I think so
I
now
see.
though they have very much streamlined this process, that there is a form you can file for getting some to run dating ads. Back
Yeah.
in 2013, 2014, it didn't used to be. So you have to manually find someone to, that we want that. I think they call it integrity certificate or something, or used to call it that back then. So
Yeah,
we
there were
had
some
to
rogue players. We had too many roguish. Basically, the Facebook was getting a low quality score off the dating ads back then, so people were
yeah.
complaining more about dating ads than any other category, and so
Okay.
they kind of nixed the entire category and just ran, just kind of whitelisted the likes of Match and eHarmony, and then slowly allowed more dating services and
Mm,
apps to run advertising
yeah.
again. Um, yeah, so that was a fun time. Yeah, so I assume that was the case. I just wondered if you were actually in any way, if you would have been more immediately allowed onto the service if you were said you were like matrimonial, or I wonder if there's some distinction, but I think they probably lump us all in under dating. So I wanted to ask you, how would you say Truly Madly and the Indian dating market are truly distinct from other markets, let's say the USA? What would you say is like the top three distinctions, like top two or three distinctions of your world versus the world of, say, a Bumble in the USA?
Yeah, so US is a very homogeneous country, right? It is largely a similar cultural template, other than few communities, which is largely followed and accepted, right? In India is very much actually like Europe, right? That every state is a different country and culture in itself, and every state, so every few kilometers the dialect changes, right? And we have like hundreds of dialects in the country, and with each dialect comes a unique culture of its own, right? So we, for example, one very big differentiation on the product level is that Tinder and Bumble, they are based on kilometer radius, right? That 10 kilometers, 20 kilometers, and make sense also, because it is more of a casual, you would want to meet tonight or this week, right? That's the use case that it is built for. In our case, when we look at the success stories which converted into marriages, the people, the both users used to live, in many cases used to live 100, 200, 300 kilometers apart, in the same state but different cities. And the user is very much spread like that, right? We have so diverse geography, people are very much far apart, and there could be some pockets where there is not enough liquidity, so that you cannot, even if you want, you cannot match within 10 kilometers, because after 100 to 200 profiles, there are no profiles left, right? So and the interesting thing is, it actually makes a lot of sense for users to see. India being conservative, especially tier 2, tier 3, where this actually happens, it they hardly meet in on the same day or in the same week. The funnel goes like that: you meet on TM, Truly Madly, you chat for a few days, exchange phone numbers, then you talk on WhatsApp or Instagram or phone call for a few weeks. When there is some sort of a, and most relationships fizzle out in this phase only, right? That they don't even get to that. uh, when primarily it is, a lot of effort is being put in to get the number, and then when you have the number and you are talking, and then it kind of, fizzles out. And the ones who don't, the relationships that don't fizzle out, they then after a few weeks decide that let's meet. Then the first date happens on in a public cafe, right? And then if that date goes well, there is a second and third date. Then eventually parents are involved, because when you are getting married, parents will get involved, families will get involved, right? But it's very much later in our use case versus matrimony, where parents are involved from day one. Once
Yeah.
you have dated for a few months or a year, you have known each other very well, you have decided you want to spend lives together, that is when you tell each other's parents that, hey, we are doing this, right? So
So
in
how
fact,
far in would you say it would be in the new age matchmaking category in Truly Madly? How many dates would couples generally have before they bring in the family? Do you have visibility on that? And what would you estimate the number of dates roughly?
see, number
Well,
of dates I cannot estimate, but we have estimated the number of months. It
ah,
averaged at around 9 to 11 months. That
wow,
from first meeting, from first meeting to deciding to get married and involve
I
parents,
see.
it's 9 to 11 months.
Oh, so it's at the point at which they decide to get married, they include the parents then?
Yes, not before. Because
I
otherwise it does
see.
not matter. You don't want to involve parents if they only involve when they have decided they want to get married.
I understand this behavior is quite distinct with the primary metros, the major metros, Delhi, Gurgaon,
Everywhere.
Mumbai,
Everywhere.
Chennai.
More
The second tiers
everywhere,
are
more so in non-metro, more so in non-metro, but even in metros.
I see.
Because see, even in metros, mostly, even if you don't live with your parents, you are very close to your parents,
Yeah.
right? And in tier two and tier three, so mostly you live with the parents,
Yeah.
right? In India, we don't leave our parents alone at their old age, right? And that, I think, is somewhat coming back to US also, which I have seen and felt, right? And so it is important that there is families, and the parent, both families meet, and both
Yeah.
sides of parents meet, right? And then we have our own traditions. If you have been to a Indian wedding,
No, I haven't yet. I was just
I
thinking I'd like to
I
go to one
recently went
one
to
day.
one 6 months ago, which was
Yeah.
mine. So
Congratulations.
thank you. So we
So
also
what
did
was
it
your
for
wedding
five
like?
years.
What happened? How long did the wedding take? And could you walk us through that?
So we did it for almost 5 years. Then told our parents after 5 years. They see, and parents also knew that some, because we kept visiting each other, and
Yeah.
we had. It's not that we had not, because we were dating for a very long time, for 5 years, right? Most relationship, they don't do that. We both are running our startup, so we we took a lot of time. But even if in small, then parents meet, and then there are a lot of ceremonies. So even a wedding, just wedding is a 3 to 4 days affair. There are different functions that are involved. There are different parties that are involved, right? Everybody from pan India comes to your city and house and live with you for those 3 4 days. So it's a festival. It's not just a ceremony. It's a more like a festival, and that is the reason. If I'm not wrong, Indian wedding market is north of $50 billion.
Yeah, one of the interesting things I'd heard that matrimony is doing is getting into the wedding photography business. Some years ago, it's quite a nice
Yeah,
side business for them.
they have a
Very
full
complex.
marketplace. It's around 10% of their uh, revenue now.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So you've got an interesting side product. Truly Madly, I've noticed with this the video product that you've got, TM
TM
Cafe,
Cafe.
and you've actually
Yeah,
raised money for that. So basically, speed dating. It's a 90-second speed dating service,
yeah.
and it's a distinct app, I think, isn't it? And you've
So
actually raised
it's
$3.2 million for this. So can you tell us about this
it's not
app
a
and how
separate
it
app.
goes?
No,
Sorry,
it's
yeah.
not a separate app. It's a feature inside the app, but it is a very exclusive feature, and not everybody gets access to it, right?
Ah,
So we have this thing called trust score, which you can increase by linking your social accounts, doing a selfie verification where we run a facial recognition scan of your face and ensure all the photos that you have uploaded are of the same face. Then you can upload your passport or other national ID like Aadhaar, etc. You can link your LinkedIn and phone number, etc. and everything. So LinkedIn gives you 10 points, selfie gives you 30, national ID gives you 40, right? So there is a whole some gamification angle also put into it.
yeah,
And then we have one tie up with a company called Cred. If you are a Cred member, which means that your whole KYC is done there, so you just link your Cred account with your TM account and you get 100% trust score. So the idea behind TM Cafe came to me when I was talking to, so I try that every week we talk to at least two users, right? And what we have also identified is that that user call has to be more than 30 minutes, because first 30 minutes user has their walls up, they don't share anything real, everything is fluff, right? It is after 20-30 minutes that when the walls are down and they really start sharing. So I asked them after 30-40 minutes ki, okay, you downloaded the app, but what makes you open the app, right? And now in hindsight the answer was obvious, but most people said felt lonely, wanted to talk to someone, right? So I thought, are we really solving that problem? Because right now the funnel is you come on the app, you see the profiles, you like some profiles, then they will have to like you back, then there will be a match, then you will send a hi, then she will send a hi, and then you will talk. So gratification is there, but it is delayed. How can we, today is a instant gratification world, right? How can we in real time connect folks? So that's where the idea of TM Cafe came from, and we leveraged, because we cannot, so idea was how can we put enough users in the same space, but we cannot put just randomly, because it's a dating app after all hell can break loose if I allow everybody to call everybody, right? So that's where we applied a filter that, hey, okay, you will need to have at least 50% of trust score, which means, and you can only achieve that trust score either you have a selfie verification done or you have uploaded a national ID, right? So that gives us that this person is some sort of has some sort of seriousness, is not a bad actor, right? Otherwise they will not give us their real ID and photo, and we can trust them, right? And then we show this score also to the user on the other end. So idea was to put them in the same space and time and allow them to connect with each other, but put a restriction, and to remove the awkwardness, right? So we put a timer on it, that the call you can initiate a 9 call, but it will be only for 90 second. At 90th second call will automatically disconnect, and then you decide whether you want to match with them or not. So earlier what you were doing based on a static photo and a static bio, we replace that with a 90-second real time interaction, and then you can take a call whether you want to match or not, right? And to our amaze we saw that this feature is getting north of 60% of match rate, right? And being a double opt-in, getting 60% match rate is, because especially from women's side, getting 60% of acceptance or like rate, it is almost possible, right? But because some sort of uh, connection or introduction has happened over the call. And when I was building on, I had one doubt, that will Indian women be comfortable getting on video first? Because I used to think that you, by the time you will get comfortable enough to be on a video call, you would have exchanged numbers and that, or Instagram IDs, and that video call will happen either on WhatsApp or on Instagram. But when I talked to some of our female users and I asked them this, so they said, no, we really need this, because before I give my phone number or my Instagram ID, I want to see the person, that does he really look like how
yeah.
he's on the profile? Does he
Authentication
talk
loop.
like I think he talks.
Yeah.
And one very interesting, one of the girl asked that I want to see that versus photo, is his hairline still here or has gone backward? And then
Right.
I realized that especially men, we don't change our photos very often,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Last good
Absolutely.
photo of ours was 4 years ago, so we keep using that. So it's not that the person is trying to fool you, but because his last good photo was 4 years ago, he's still using it,
Yeah.
right?
C'est la
There's no
vie.
bad intention
So
at the man's
we should
part.
transition. I should get to. I think we've got time to just ask two questions of you from the audience. We've got quite a few questions, by the way. So, folks, if you'd like to bubble up any questions by voting for them, I'm just going to pick off the top two here. So I'll give you a couple of seconds if you want to vote for any more. We've got one coming in with 5 votes. Bruno from UMatch asks, you said Tinder and Bumble aren't made for India. So what's the number one difference that fundamentally differentiates Truly Madly from Tinder and Bumble and makes it fit in India?
So one, I told you that we do not have radius filter, right? Because in India, especially beyond metro cities, does not work. You will not get profiles, and it is not needed also, especially for a serious dating app. When you are looking for your love story, why would you want to restrict yourself within 10 kilometers? That's a use case for a casual or a one night stand. Secondly, we have a very stringent moderation process. We reject more than 40% of the profiles who apply to become a member. Third, we have two very interesting compatibility development algorithms, compatibility matching algorithms. One is a personality compatibility, where we have worked with some of the top Indian psychologists and psychometricians to create a compatibility framework for India, right? And when we sat with some of the psychologists and asked them, why do we really need one for India, or can we just pick up off the shelf like MBTI or Big Four or something? So they said, see, they are made for West, and they told us a very interesting difference why you cannot use. They told that in US, 70% of divorces happen because of affairs, be it a mental affair or be it a physical affair. In India, 80% of divorces happen because of parents, be it in girl's parent or be it guy's parents, right? Because that is one thing that none of the US frameworks have taken into account, right? But which is
Yeah.
a reality here, right?
Yeah. We're
And then
missing
second,
some.
astrology is a very interesting and important piece for Indians. So we have integrated astrology compatibility also, like
Yeah.
now even Snapchat has done, right? So we show you your astrological compatibility also, right? And that is something which is very Indian to the heart, right?
Great.
Then I can go on and on, but these are the top
All
three
right.
differences. But
So I've got another question.
even
This
TNF is
question
something which
also
is
with
very
5 votes. We've got Heather from Hula. And the question is what? And we've got 5 votes for this. Thanks for voting it out. What is your top 3 growth drivers? Ads, social media, what else?
sadly, yes. Top three, first one being ads, which we are trying to now uh, get less dependent on, but it is very hard to do versus saying it. Social media is good for exposure. Not a lot of conversions happen from there. Uh,
Mhm.
Influencer marketing we have seen is still a good one, a good growth driver. And then we have our own organic and referral loops, which is the third driver.
Gotcha. Thank you very much. Snehil, you've set a wonderful precedent for us in terms of sharing with the group. I hope we have more interviewees like you. I think we'll do more of these interviews as a consequence of this wonderful interview. I appreciate your time. I appreciate you learning, you sharing so much with us so that we can learn. And we'll run this on the channel on for Online Personals Watch in about 6 weeks' time, by the way. So we'll have a bit of time to process it. And great. Thank you very much for your time, Snehil.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you for having me, and thank you everybody for attending.